Shabbat Shalom, everyone. We are tonight celebrating something really special. And no, it's not just the end of Sukkot and the beginning of Simchat Torah this weekend. We are celebrating our very first virtual bar mitzvah of the year. And we are so happy that we can still do this. I'm sure that in ancient times, had we been faced with the same trouble, we would have had to delay our celebration and our ceremony until the danger passed. But today we get to celebrate Ben Sterrett becoming bar mitzvah, a son of the commandments. And tonight we are actually going to incorporate our Torah reading into our Shabbat evening service. And this will be also new for Temple B'nai Torah. So a lot of newness this evening, but a lot of joy and a lot of simcha as we're here with Ben as he becomes bar mitzvah this Shabbat evening. So please join with us, pray along, and celebrate this simcha. His family is actually here with us today, properly social distanced and masked up, but we are here and celebrating this incredible milestone in the life of one of our young congregants. So please continue with us with L'chado Di as we welcome in our Shabbat beloved. And as we do each and every evening that we say this prayer, we turn towards the door and we welcome in that divine presence of God, the Shekhinah, as we celebrate our marriage, our marriage of the Jewish people to God.
Ya la 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 l'chado di, ya la 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 l'krakala, ya la 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 b'nei Shabbat, b'nei Shabbat nekabela, shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad. Ishmianu El HaMiuchad Adonai Echad U'Shemo Echad L'Shemo Tiferet Ve'Limchila Ya la 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 l'krakala, ya la 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 b'nei Shabbat, b'nei Shabbat ekabela, l'ikra Shabbat, lechu v'necha, ki hi mekor ha'bracha, merosh mikedem nesucha, sof ma'aseh b'machshavat tefila, ya la 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 l'chado di, ya la 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 l'krakala, ya la 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 b'nei Shabbat, b'nei Shabbat ekabela, hitoreri, ki va'orech humiori, uri, shir daberi, kevod adonai, alayhi nikah, ya la 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 l'chado di, ya la 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 l'krakala, ya תרבלה גם בשמחה ובסהולה תחבונה עם סגולה בואי קלה בואי קלה יאללה לה 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 לחתודי יאללה לה 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 לקרוא קלה יאללה לה 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 פני שבת נקבלה
And we continue in that theme of welcoming in divine guests with our Shalom Aleichem, asking our ministering angels to come in peace, to bless us with peace, and then when they have to leave, to please leave us with a little sense of that peace.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharim, Malachei
And now I would like to invite up Ben's parents, Mark and Rachel, and Ben himself to lead us or begin the lighting of our Shabbat candles as we lead the blessings. Oh, if you can. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. And if you'll take the line and just hold it there. And now Ben has our Kiddush cup, our cup of wine, and we hope that for him and his family in this coming year, it overflows. And so if you have one at home, we invite you to say the blessing with us. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho be'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu, zikaron lema'aseh v'reshit, ki hu yom techila lemikra kodesh, zecher l'tziyat Mitzrayim, kivanu v'acharta ve'otanu kidashta mikol hamim, ve'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava uvratzon hinchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat. L'chaim, take a sip. And now bend underneath that cloth there. If you can pick up that platter. Yeah, just pick it up. So we say our blessing over our challah, thanking God for giving us sustenance. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lachem min haaretz v'te'avon. A little piece. Give one to your mom, one to your dad. And you take a little piece for yourself. You can put it down. You guys can eat. Oh no, okay. So come back over here, Ben. Thank you guys so much. Do you guys want challah? Okay. It's really good challah. All right. Okay. And now we continue with our Barhu, and anybody following along in prayer books can find the words for our call to worship, our Barhu, on page 28.
Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach Baruch Adonai HaMevorach HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed HaMevorach HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed.
So now we celebrate the coming of nighttime, the changing of our seasons. I'm sure everybody is starting to feel the coming fall, and whether it brings joy or trepidation. I know there's a little bit of both, but it's at least something that we can all expect in our lives, something that we can have a pattern and a routine. Is the changing of the seasons, the rising and the setting of the sun, and we give thanks to God for those things that make our lives just a little bit more predictable.
Roll into dark. Roll into light. Night becomes day. Day turns to night. Roll into dark. Roll into light. Night becomes day. Day turns to night. Borei yom v'layla. Golel or mipnei choshech. Golel or mipnei choshech. V'choshech mipnei or. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Borei yom v'layla. Golel or mipnei choshech. Golel or mipnei choshech. V'choshech mipnei or. Baruch atah Adonai Ha'ma'ariv Haravim.
Go ahead and read.
Wisdom and wonder, passion and instruction, story and symbol. All these signs your Torah gives us, and the more we devote ourselves to it, the more it grows and gives. What could be a truer token of your abiding love than this holiest of your works in the living language that gives it form? Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Hashem, Kivod Mahuto, Leolam Va'ed. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha. Ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher Anochi metzavecha yom al levavecha. Vishayantam levanecha medibecha bam b'shivtecha veitecha uvlechtecha vaderech uvkumecha shartam alechem al yadecha vehayu letotafot bein einecha. Uvtavtam al yadot leitecha uvlisharecha.
למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם Adonai Elohechem Emet. So we continue now with our Song of the Sea, our festive song of redemption, our Micha Mocha on page 40.
Mocha ba'elim kamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar b'kodesh. Nora tehilot oseh fala, Nora tehilot oseh fala, Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la.
Please join us in our prayer for the safety of our sleep at night and being able to rise up next morning renewed and refreshed and safe. We are going to do our Hashkivenu, page 42.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom V'hamidenu Shomreinu Shomreinu l'chaim Ufros aleinu Sukkot shlomecha. I close my eyes, my thoughts they rise up to the sky. Another day gone by. So in my sleep, save my soul, you'll keep with each heartbeat. May my dreams be sweet. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom Hamidenu Shomreinu Shomreinu l'chaim Ufros aleinu Sukkot shlomecha.
So now we continue with our standing prayer, our Amidah, which begins on page 46. And I'm going to have Ben come up here with me in front of the ark as we daven together with the opening words, Adonai Tzvatai Tifach. Adonai Tzvatai Tifach u'fi yagita yiratecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu Elohei Avotinu v'Imotenu Elohei Abraham Elohei Yitzchak Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagibur Ve'Hanora El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim Ve'Konei HaKol V'Zocher Chasdei Avot Ve'Imahot
Maybe Gulali Mevnehem, the Manshamo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer Moshiach Magid, Baruch Atah Adonai, Magid Abraham, Bezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechayei HaKolata, Rav Lehoshia, Mashiv HaRuach, Umorin HaGashem, Mechalkel Chaim Bechesed, Mechayei HaKol Berachamim Radim, Tomech Noflim Berofech Olim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayem Emunato, Lishanei Akar, Michamocha Bal Gevurot, Umido Melach, Melech Mevit Umechaye, Umatzmiach Yeshua, Menehman Atala Chayot HaKol, Baruch Atah Adonai, Mechaye HaKol. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, u'kedoshim b'chol yom yahalalu chasela. Baruch atah Adonai ha'el hakadosh.
We take a few moments now for our own silent prayers on the Shabbat evening. And when you are done, please feel free to be seated.
Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam. Ki atahu melech adon lecho hashalom. Ki atahu melech adon lecho hashalom. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam. Betov beinecha levarech et Amcha Yisrael b'chol lein v'chol shah b'shlomecha. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam. Tasim Le'olam. Tasim Le'olam.
So typically at this point in our evening service, I would give a sermon, or Rabbi Molly would give a sermon, but tonight we have the special treat of our Bar Mitzvah actually teaching us words of Torah, but also reading Torah for us this evening. So we are actually turning, if you have a prayer book in front of you, to page 244. And tonight is special because, and I'll give everybody a little bit of a preface to how we've been constructing these services. Ben was the very, very first bar mitzvah for our COVID year, our COVID season. He was supposed to have his bar mitzvah in May, and we put it off for a few months thinking that this would pass. And sadly, it didn't. So we decided that we were going to do this virtually in October. But what this means is that the Torah portion that Ben worked on so diligently with his tutor, Rabbi Raz, was Parshat Kedoshim. And that is not the Torah portion we typically read at this time in October. So rather than putting poor Ben through the rigors of having to learn a completely new Torah portion, he's going to be reading and drashing on Parshat Kedoshim. But in honor of this holiday and this season, he is also going to be reading from the very last few verses of our book of Deuteronomy. And so he's going to finish out our Torah cycle reading for the year. And we're going to pick it back up again tomorrow morning. So we, at this time, are going to move to our Seder Kriyat HaTorah, the order for the reading of our Torah. And if you're able, please rise. Ein kamocha v'Elohim Adonai, ve'ein kamahasecha, malchutacha malchut, kol olamim, umemshaltecha bechol dor v'ador. Adonai melech, Adonai malach, Adonai yimlach leolam va'ed. Adonai hoz le'amo yitain, Adonai yavarech et amo v'shalom. Av harachamim hativa v'rtzoncha et Zion. Tivnei chomot Yerushalayim. V'achad levad batachnu melech el ram v'nisa Adon olamim. Ki mitzion tetzeh Torah, ki mitzion tetzeh Torah, u'davar Adonai Yerushalayim. In this scroll is the secret of our people's life from Sinai until now. Its teaching is love and justice, goodness and hope. Freedom is its gift to all who treasure it. Baruch Shenatan Torah Torah, Baruch Shenatan Torah Torah, Le'amo Yisrael B'kedushato. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo, Gadol Adonai Iti, Romema Shemo Yachdav. Al shlosha devarim, al shlosha devarim, al shlosha devarim, ha'olam, ha'olam omei. Al shlosha devarim, al shlosha devarim, ha'olam, ha'olam omei. Al haTorah ve'al avodah ve'al gemilut chasadim. Al haTorah ve'al avodah ve'al gemilut chasadim. You may be seated. In honor of Simchat Torah, and because the Torah scroll we're reading from is extraordinarily heavy, and too heavy probably for our bar mitzvah to hold for that long, we are going to put this one back, and we're going to pull out another Torah scroll. So almost all of our Torah scrolls today are going to make an appearance at Ben's bar mitzvah. So since we have sort of a modified group in our sanctuary this morning, or this evening, excuse me, I'm so used to doing this in the morning. Since we have a modified group in our sanctuary this evening, we're just going to do 2 aliyot. And one is going to be the bar mitzvah boys. And then the second aliyah over our second Torah scroll, I will leave that open if one of his family members would like to do the aliyah, or if his beloved tutor, Rabbi Ruz, would like to do the aliyah over the second reading from Deuteronomy. I'll let that be your choice. Okay. All right.
Baruch et Adonai Habarach.
Baruch Adonai Havarach Le'olam Vahed.
Baruch Adonai Habarach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam. Asher Bahar Banu Mikol Hamim. Benatam Lanu Et Torto. Baruch Ata Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen.
Vaydaber Adonai El Moshe Lemor. Daber El Kol Adat Ne Yisrael Ve'amarta Alehem Kedoshim Kadosh Ani Adonai Elohechem Ishimo Ve'aviv Tira'u Ve'et Shabtotai Tishmoru Ani Adonai Elohechem Al Tishu Anha Anilim Ve'et Shabtotai Adonai
Elohe.
או תפנו אליך אלילים, ולכם מסכה לא תעשו לכם, אני אדוני אלוהיכם. עשה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת וחיי עולם נצא בתוכנו ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Amen. יישר כוח. That was
Ah,
all right. So. And so now we put this Torah scroll back into the ark, and we will pull out a different one for Parshat V'zot HaBracha, the very end of our Torah reading. And whenever we finish a book of Torah, we say, Chazak, Chazak, V'nit Chazek, strength, strength, and may you be strengthened. So now I'd like to invite up Rabbi Raz to do the second aliyah, the second blessing over Parshat V'zot HaBracha, the last few verses. Baruch Hu et Adonai Hamvorach. Baruch Adonai Hamvorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch Adonai Hamvorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Ata Adonai noten haTorah.
ולקם נביאות בישראל כמשה אשר ידעו אדוני פנים אל פנים לכל האותות והמופתים אשר שלחו אדוני עשה בארץ מצרים ופרעה ולכל עבודה ולכל ארצו ולכל היד החזקה ולכל המורה הגדול אשר עשה משה לעיני כל ישראל חזק ומתחזק.
חזק חזק ומתחזק. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת וחיי עולם נטע בתוכנו. ברוך אתה אדוני
נותן התורה.
Amen.
And with our Torah scroll in front of us, we ask for the divine's blessing on those in our congregation who are ill and in need of healing. And I think this simcha, this bar mitzvah, marks this so keenly, how many people in our world need healing and needs God's protection. So Rabbi Mali is going to read the names and then lead us in our prayer for healing on this Shabbat evening, hoping that everybody can know a sense of refuah shlema, of a complete healing.
This Shabbat, we're praying for the healing, especially of Valentina Darakovsky, Azrael Early, Rohan Early, Tara Landry, Myra Masig, Patricia Shapiro, Orly Zerman, Amy Thornton, Deborah Newman-Ziskastengay, Lindsay Robinson, Laura Armstrong, John Levy, Stacy Hetzel, Diane Turner, Michael Sirkenpool, Jacqueline Tara Smith, Kalina Suzawa, Deborah Rose, Sid Rubin, Liliana Oxsmith, Hans Weil, Sylvia Brown, Phil Grinker, Jeffrey Finn, Benjamin Dominitz, Terry Callett, Pam Shane Johnson, Jamie Cameron, Eileen Kreisman, Ronnie Haber, Mark Byler, and Shuri Schnabel. Join together in our prayer for healing.
מי שברך אבותינו מקור הברכה לאמותינו. May the source of strength who bless the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Mi sheberach imotenu mekor habracha le'avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with their refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
And now it is a particular treat for us to have our bar mitzvah Ben Sterrett share a few really moving words of Torah with us about his Torah portion, Parshat Kedoshim.
In my portion, Parshat Kedoshim, Moses tells the entire Israelite community that they are holy because their God, Adonai, is holy. Then Moses goes on to give them a more detailed version of the Ten Commandments, one of which I read today, which is to honor your father and mother. Something included in this particular retelling of the Ten Commandments caught my eye, although not in the original version of the giving of the Ten Commandments. Parshat Kedoshim says, "You shall not insult the deaf or place a stumbling block for the blind." I interpret this to mean that you should never take advantage of someone else's disadvantage. When studying my Torah portion with Rabbi Sidney, at first I had trouble thinking of specific real-world examples of when I had seen this happen. I think it's hard for me to come up with anything that I had experienced in my own life because it's really hard to think why anyone would do something like that. But upon reflecting, I realized it is much more common than I would like to think. For instance, when playing a game or sport, often players try to assess their opponent's weakness so they can have the upper hand. But this is something that people do when they are playing a game, and it doesn't really matter that much. In fact, some would even say that this is how you are supposed to play the game. But when people take advantage of other people's disadvantage in real life, it can have really bad consequences. Taking advantage of others who are marginalized, less powerful, or otherwise disadvantaged is unjustifiable. When people make fun of those with disabilities, they are amusing themselves by causing others pain and shame. I have seen my friends do this, even the country's president. When older or bigger kids bully younger, smaller children, they are taking advantage of other kids' youth or size to make them feel more powerful. I am the middle brother of 3, and I am both a victim and admittedly sometimes guilty of this. When people gossip about other people behind their backs, they spread negative rumors without regard for the victim. Gossipers are attempting to gain popularity, entertainment, or power by insulting those who have no ability to defend themselves. It is my duty as a moral person to recognize gossip and do my best to end it. As I grow up, I know adults have the ability to also take advantage of each other. When people take advantage of each other's poverty by loaning them money at really high interest rates, they cause the poor to get deeper and deeper into debt. Sometimes people lose their cars or homes when this happens. It is my duty as a moral person to protect those in need. One must always remember that intention matters. I see some of the best people make mistakes. Acknowledging your intention, making amends, and resolving to do better are all part of my never-ending growth. The Torah always tells us that we should take extra care of those who are most vulnerable, the poor, the widow, the orphan, and the stranger. For my mitzvah project, I volunteered last summer at a community service club. I spent time at the homeless shelter serving lunch. I also spent time organizing goods at a thrift store. I recognized as a kid my opportunities in these organizations are limited, but I found my experience at the thrift shop to be very unsatisfying. I was not able to see our positive contribution. However, I was very happy to serve at the homeless shelter. I knew that I was helping and was very useful. I learned that one of the greatest privileges of being able to help someone. The Torah tells us that we should help those who face disadvantages because God knows that some human beings might be tempted to take advantage of someone who is defenseless if they feel they might have something to gain. What we should never forget is that our greatest gain is not from taking advantage of others, but from contributing to the advantage of others. Through this process of becoming a bar mitzvah, I have learned that what it means to take responsibility for others, especially those who might need my help. It is an important part of being a responsible adult in the community and something that each and every person should learn to do at an early age. I have not always enjoyed some of the study, the tutoring sessions, and the frequent meetings. It's all been a lot of work, but I appreciate the lesson that I have learned going through this process. God wants to take care of us and each other, even when there might be no clear immediate advantage to us, because ultimately the advantage of helping others is true happiness and contentment. I want to thank my mother and father for their consistent, unconditional love. And I love you, Mom and Dad. I want to thank my brothers Noah and Alistair for their love, even when it is very, very difficult for them to show it. I love you, Noah and Alistair. I want to thank my grandma for her love, kindness, treats, and rides to Hebrew school. I love you, Grammy. I want to thank my other grandma from her far, far away love, kindness, and more treats. I love you, Nana. I want to thank my Aunt Sarah, my Uncle Michael, and my cousins Sam, Mabel, and Matthew, and their dog Teddy for their love, hilarity, and just being my family. I love you, Towers. I also love my dog Lou for all her unconditional love and ridiculousness. Finally, I would like to thank my rabbis, Ruz, Sydney, and Molly. You are all great teachers, and the synagogue is so lucky to have you. Shabbat Shalom.
And now I would like to invite up Ben's parents, Mark and Rachel, to share with him a special blessing on this milestone of becoming bar mitzvah.
Ben, on this day of your bar mitzvah, when you have reached the age of spiritual maturity and when you are responsible for your own actions, we feel as though you are ready to take on the challenge of adulthood. May your quiet strength lead you to a life where you continue to make good decisions, even when they may not be popular with others, where you do what you think is the right thing.
Benjamin, may your kindness to all lead you to a life filled with loving friends and family. May your tendency to help those less fortunate than you lead you to a life filled with acts of good deeds. May your common sense and wisdom lead you to a life filled with well thought out decisions. May your intelligence and diligence lead you to a career that you are passionate about. May your beauty and sensitivity help enhance the splendor of the world. May your study of Torah and Judaism lead to a continuation of the observation of Jewish traditions for another generation. We wish that you take the talents and beauty you possess today and strive to make the world a better place than you found it.
So Ben, come here. I so appreciated having the opportunity to get to study with you, even in this really weird fashion. What I found that I enjoyed the most is when we started studying Parshat Kedoshim. There were so many pieces that could have been meaningful to you. And yet, when I asked you, what resonates most? What part do you like the best? You immediately answered, you shall not insult the deaf or put a stumbling block before the blind. That was the very first thing that you went to. Because even though you couldn't think of a lot of examples of when somebody might do that, because it was horrible, it resonated with your soul. And I really appreciated the fact that as you're entering into this stage of becoming a responsible adult, of becoming bar mitzvah, that one verse of how to treat people with love and kindness and fairness spoke volumes to you. And so as you go forth into this world, I hope that innate sense inside of you that tells you what to do and what is right is always a piece of you, and that it stays with you. I can't imagine at any point you taking advantage of somebody's disadvantages. But the fact that you pointed out that as a middle child, sometimes you were the victim and even sometimes the aggressor to your younger brother, Alistair, shows a really keen self-awareness that we could all fall into this trap. We could all accidentally, or sometimes intentionally, do exactly what the Torah tells us not to do. Now, we talked a little bit about why the Torah puts all of these things in it that says you shall not do this and you shall not do that. And it's because the Torah knows that people actually do those things. You don't have to tell them not to do it if they're not actually doing it. So the fact that that's the piece that resonated with you and that you have self-awareness means that you're going to go into your adulthood, into the world, and bring a greater sense of kindness and love and fairness. And that makes me feel very good about the generation, your generation, coming up and rising. Our world seems really broken right now. And you are not required to fix it. But as the prophets and the sages say, you are not required to fix it, but neither are you allowed to desist from the work. So you need to do a little piece. You've already started doing a little piece. And so now on the day of your bar mitzvah, you're tasked with just a little bit more of that responsibility. And I feel very good with you going out into the world doing that. So I'm going to bless you with the ancient words that we use for blessing, what we call our Birkat Kohanim. And I'm going to have your family rise, and I'm going to offer you this blessing in front of the open ark. And then we're going to sing some Siman Tov and Mazel Tov, because you have done an amazing job. Something very strange. Yevarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. May God bless you and keep you. Ya'er Adonai panav alecha v'chonecha. May God's face shine upon you and be gracious unto you. Yisa Adonai panav alecha v'yasem l'cha shalom. May God's presence always be with you and give you a long, happy life of peace. Ken yehi ratzon. Amen. He is God's will. Siman Tov and Mazel Tov and Mazel Tov and Siman Tov, Siman Tov and Mazel Tov and Mazel Tov and Siman Tov, Siman Tov and Mazel Tov and Mazel Tov and Siman Tov. Hey lanu, hey lanu, uvechol Israel. Hey lanu, uvechol Israel. Hey lanu, Uvechol Israel, Hey lanu, Uvechol Israel. Mazel Tov. You did it. You made it. You are the very first for Temple B'nai Torah, so you can be very proud of your accomplishment. Y'all can be seated. We are going to return our Torah to its ark. And for the returning of our Torah, normally we'd have all of the lifting and the opening and the holding. But I'll tell you a little secret. I'm not strong enough to lift this thing over my head. And Noah's like, no, not me either. So we're just going to wrap it, and it's going to be okay. You're going to help me with wrapping it. So Rabbi Molly is going to bring back up our Siddur. I want you to do that. You're going to hold this just like that. Please rise. That's never happened.
Ezot HaTorah asher sam Moshe lifnei b'nei Yisrael al pi Adonai b'yad Moshe. Eitz chaim hi lemachazikim ba v'tom hecha be'ushar derachecha Darchei Noam b'chol netivotecha shalom. Hashivenu Adonai elecha v'nashuva. Hadesh Yameinu Chadesh Yameinu Kekadem.
You may be seated. And so now we turn to our Aleinu, asking for, or giving praise to God, sovereign of the universe, blessing our Creator. And so if you're following along, we're on page 282. Please rise. Adon hakol leteit gedula leotzer breshit shelo sanu kegoye hartzot velo samanu kemishpachot adam ha shelo sam chalkenu kahem vegora leinu kechol hamonam va'anachnu korim ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד. You may be seated. Our thoughts turn to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people whose graves are unmarked, and those of every race and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. As we remember them, we meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and death.
This Shabbat, we are mourning the recent loss of Daniel Small, the son of Robert Small and Stephanie Weil Small. And we are also observing the yahrzeits, the Shabbat, of Robert Bob Falk, Victor Alhadeff, Gerda Anders, Edward Bresker, Philip Burdey, Jerry Kasten, Robert Falk, Monroe Farber, Irving Feynman, Benjamin Flax, Abraham S. Goldman, Stanley D. Golub, Arlene Stubbs Gordon, Mary Catherine Hallela, Sarah Margaret Margolis, Jean Mayerson, Morris Mesher, Patty Morris, Anna Negrin, Beth Rosenstein, Lynn Skolnick, Herbert Leif Underhall, Walter Vason, I. Edmund Wechter, Selita Waldron, Harriet Williamson, and Eva Zwang. We'll join now together in the words of Mourner's Kaddish. Yikadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, be'alma divrach hirotei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayachon uvyomechon uvchaye de kol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uvizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mevarach le'alam ulamei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yitale v'yithalal shemei dekudsha brichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Osei shalom b'mermav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us, to all Israel, and to the whole world. And we say together, amen.
So before we go into our final song, Od Yavo, asking for peace on earth, I just wanted to thank the Sterrett family for being willing to experiment a little bit with us and for being such willing participants. So for those of you who can't see right now, we're joined by Rachel and Mark Sterrett, who you saw, but also Ben's brothers, Noah and Alistair, and his grandmother, Patricia Shapiro. And they're all here today just quelling over the coming of age of Ben. And so we really appreciate you, his community, taking on the task of helping him through this important stage of his development and this life cycle for Ben. And although you aren't here with us, I am sure that you are sending your thoughts and prayers and love to Ben and his family today as we celebrate him becoming bar mitzvah. So an incredible job for a very unusual task. Thank you for doing this with us today, Ben. So we're going to end with Od Yavo, asking God to bring peace to all of us.
Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu ve'al kulam. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu ve'al kulam. Salam Aleinu ve'al kolam. Salam Shalom. Salam Aleinu ve'al kolam. Salam Shalom. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu ve'al kulam. Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu, Od Yavo Shalom Aleinu ve'al kulam.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Thank you for being with us this evening, and I wish you all a very blessed, restful 25 hours of peace. Shabbat Shalom and Chag Sameach.